September 1931. This was for me the first moment of some kind of realization. I was conscious for the first time of a deep response to Baba's pure love. I had not felt that intense, great spiritual love before. I felt at that moment complete love for Baba, and for the first time in my life experienced that ecstasy of divine love that the mystics experience. Such was the impact upon me, echoing day and night in my heart. Kitty Davy.
London, 1932. A long-awaited promise fulfilled. Meher Baba calls his close Western disciples to India for the first time. A flurry of newspaper articles appear. Friends and family are stunned. But the group is determined to go. Baba himself arranges every detail of the journey.
Meher Baba sent for 10 of us from England and America to come to India. Needless to say, the parents and relations of some of us did not approve of our going and leaving our work. How could we explain the spiritual purpose of the trip when we barely realized it ourselves? Kitty Davy.
The tour was to be as follows. Taking a boat from Genoa to Bombay, 3 weeks traveling around India, then a boat from Colombo to Japan to Shanghai, 3 weeks there for spiritual work, a visit to Kitty's brother Herbert at Nanking, across the Pacific to Honolulu, San Francisco, and direct to Hollywood, where Baba was to break his silence, then Canada, and back to England. Finally, after much preparation, the group boarded the SS Victoria, bound for Bombay. Among the party were Princess Nerina Machiavelli, an internationally renowned Italian actress and socialite married to George Machiavelli of Georgian nobility. Elizabeth Patterson, an American businesswoman. Kitty Davy, a music teacher from London. Margaret Craske, a well-known ballet instructor and owner of a ballet school in London. Delia DeLeon, an actress. Minta Toledano, Delia's sister and also an actress. And Quentin Todd, a British actor and producer who had recently been traveling with Meher Baba in Egypt and whom Baba had sent to help escort the group to India. For many, this journey to be with Baba involved considerable sacrifice. Some had to give up jobs. Others moved out of their homes. And Margaret Craske even had to sell her ballet school.
The only way to go to Baba was to break all contracts and sell the school. As soon as the news of my unexplainable behaviour got around the dancing world, my telephone rang from morning to night, bringing me attacks from friends and enemies about my foolishness. We were possibly the first group of ordinary persons to embark on a trip of this kind. Margaret Craske.
The journey to India in March was pleasant, with an element of surprise, for Baba sent welcoming cables to us on the boat, reminding us of his orders not to sunbathe while crossing the Red Sea, to drink plenty of cooling drinks, and to keep happy and not to worry. Up to leaving London, we had been allowed to eat fish. After leaving London, no fish allowed. Not one detail did he leave for us to decide. Kitty Davy.
Also traveling with the group were 4 more women. Vivian Geeson, a dancer and protege of Nerina Machabelli's. Audrey Williams, a pupil of Margaret Craske's, who accompanied the party at Baba's request. Mabel Ryan, Margaret's partner at the ballet school. And Christine McNaughton, a waitress at the Knightsbridge Hotel in London, where Baba and the others stayed in late 1932.
Our party aroused a great deal of curiosity on the boat. It was the hot season in India and quite the wrong time for tourists to be going to the east. One of our parties, softened by sitting in the moonlight, told our story to some young man. This, later on, had quite serious consequences. Margaret Craske.
On April 6th, the party arrived in Bombay and were met at the dock by a group of Baba's men disciples. They stayed at the Hotel Majestic, and the next day, cars came to the hotel to take them to Kandavali, about 25 miles outside of Bombay, where Baba was awaiting their arrival. It was at Kandavali that the Western women met Baba's close Eastern women disciples for the first time. They were introduced first to Meher Baba's closest disciple, Mera. Then to Mani, Meher Baba's sister. Some of the other women in the ashram were Naja, Baba's cousin, who had known him since childhood. Golmai, the one Baba called his spiritual mother. Frani, Mera's sister. And Khorshid, who met Baba as a child with her family in 1922.
Shri Ganesha Charanam Shri Ganesha.
We were delighted to meet Mera and Mani and those we had heard so much about. They were charming and made us feel immediately at home. I remember they had brought a number of beautiful saris for us to wear, a splendid thing to do, as thereby the East and West would join together by a common interest. Baba was happy to see the two groups mingling so harmoniously.
They said many people in India have kept silent for a period of time. Even for as long as 12 years, they knew of one man. But the unusual part of Baba's silence is that he goes every place, converses with all people by board, and is not shut up away from people. Baba's mother loves Baba, but does not comprehend his divinity. Jal, his brother, was with him 2 years before he believed it. Baba wrote on the board that afternoon, "I am the one reality." Elizabeth Patterson.
On April 9th, Baba and the Western group, along with some of the Eastern men disciples, went for a 3-day visit to Bandadara, where Lake Arthur is found.
Looking over Lake Arthur and the distant mountains, Baba said, "My original self is in all, and it is beautiful. I made it beautiful." I asked him if he saw it very differently from us, and he replied with a smile, "Very."
In many ways, these 3 days were the best, so free from cares and worries. There was one little disturbance only. Earlier on the boat, Audrey and Christina had met 2 quite nice men, and naturally they wanted to correspond with them. Baba answered, "No, nothing of the kind. You have all come out here to be with a spiritual master." It was hard for the young ones to understand, but they obeyed Baba's orders in this matter.
On April 12th, the group traveled by train to Agra, where Baba took the party to see the Taj Mahal.
out, Baba had arranged that our visit to this unbelievably beautiful place should coincide with the rising of the full moon at the back of the Taj, leaving us spellbound at the entrance gate. Baba's love, the beauty of the Taj, the slowly rising moon and the dark blue of the Indian sky met together in an enchantment never to be forgotten. Margaret Craske.
Baba turned to Narina. "What do you say about it?" he asked. She replied, "Since I have seen you, Baba, no outer beauty could satisfy me any more." Baba spelt out on his board, "And you do not yet see my real beauty."
At Agra, Baba delivered the surprising and disappointing news that the group was to be sent home in less than 2 weeks' time. The original plan of 6 months with him was shortened to just 3 weeks.
Baba called us to him individually and asked if we would mind if he had to send us back to Europe and America for his work. Not 6 months or longer, and no journey across the Pacific to be with Baba when he planned to break his silence in the Hollywood Bowl, so we thought. I mention this because it shows how little some of us understood in those early days what life with a spiritual master meant, or the real significance of Baba breaking his silence. Of course, we were all sad at the thought of returning to the West, but we knew Baba's will had to be obeyed. So we answered, "Whatever you say, Baba, we will do."
But the trip wasn't over yet. There were still spiritual places Baba planned for the group to see. On April 14th, the party left by train for Rawalpindi, and from there took 3 cars to Muri, the site of a prominent British military base.
To add the sweet to the bitter, Baba wanted to show us the beauties of Kashmir and the Himalayas. Baba was in a very serious mood at Marie and seemed to be working very hard. He again emphasized that we were all with him in India for spiritual reasons.
Baba rarely allowed his disciples to go anywhere without him on this first trip to India. But there was one occasion when Baba sent them out in groups of 2 or 3 for a walk without him. During the walk, Narina felt a curious restlessness and a strong desire to return. Delia agreed to return with her, and from a distance they saw Baba entering the hotel and sent word that they had returned.
Narina wrote in her diary, "Baba called me and looked sad, but at the same time pleased. He said, 'You were the only one who felt that I wanted to speak to you. I had important spiritual things to tell, but the mood has now gone.'"
When I returned later with the others, Baba said to me, "You should have felt my need." Thus we learnt the need to be conscious of him always.
On the morning of April 18th, Baba and his eastern and western followers left Muri for Srinagar in Kashmir, where they would stay for 5 days in houseboats on the Jhelum River.
Our evenings were spent in Baba's room all together, sometimes talking, other times explanations. We went to bed always early, and Baba liked us to be up early. Soon after 7 we were called.
During the days, Baba took the group sightseeing. On one of their outings, they journeyed north of Srinagar to a place called Harvan, where the Prince of Hyderabad had an enormous palace, including stables and a fish hatchery.
Today at Harvan, Baba showed us a path leading up the mountain from the left of the trout hatchery. Beyond this mountain appeared a rock-top mountain. It was here that Baba stayed in 1929 for 30 days, fasting. Christ's body is buried on top of this mountain. No one knows the exact spot except Baba. The body was brought there by 2 of Christ's disciples, Bartholomew and Thaddeus, after crucifixion. Christ appeared to his disciples after death in his 4th or heavenly body.
On April 25th, Baba and the party left Kashmir for Bombay.
We arrived back in Bombay after a terrible train journey, exhausted. We did not know it, but Baba had already had our return passages back to Europe booked. So all there was for us to do was to board the boat. We were so numb with shock and exhaustion that we just lay down on our bunks and slept. Margaret was physically sick, but we accepted it all as part of our training in detachment, and also, of course, in obedience. Delia DeLeon.
The party was besieged by the press in both France and England upon their return. The Daily Express wrote, "The English girl disciples of Meher Baba, the Indian new Messiah, landed here today after a whirlwind trip to Bombay and back, during which they were told to prepare for the arrival of their leader in London this summer."
I returned to my work in London with a certain sadness, but with an increased love. So ended our planned trip of 6 months. This sudden return to the West was our first big test, the first of many surrenders along the path we had now embarked upon with Baba. Kitty Davy.
In mid-June of 1933, Meher Baba set sail from Bombay on the SS Victoria, bound for Europe. It was his 5th journey to the West. He was joined by some of his Eastern men disciples, including Chanji, Baba's secretary, his brother Adi Jr., Kakabaria, Pendu, and Dadu Abdullah. Landing in Genoa, where he stayed for 2 days, Baba was met by Kitty Davy and Minta Toledano. Then on June 28th, Baba and his companions motored to Portofino, where they moved into the Villa Alta Chiara, rented for the month by Elizabeth Patterson.
The villa overlooked the blue Mediterranean, and the grounds ran for some distance along the top of a rocky cliff, which dropped down into the sea. Here we often walked with Baba in beauty and joy. Margaret Craske.
The Westerners included many who were with him the previous April in India. Also included in the party was Herbert Davy, Kitty's brother. Each member of the party was put to work doing jobs assigned by Baba. The main task was to pull together material about Baba in the form of questions and answers, to be published later that year in booklet form. How does a master help an aspirant? And how does a master help mankind? Only a perfect master, who is the veritable incarnation of divinity, can awaken in the individual the fire of divine love, which consumes in its flame the lesser desires of the body, mind, and world, all of which must be completely relinquished before perfection can be realized.
Baba seemed very happy in Italy. There was great activity activity with discussions and typing of articles and messages. On a few occasions, he gave us wine for spiritual reasons, and one of my special memories was one moonlit night on the terrace, with the scent of jasmines wafting to us and the sound of cicadas, Baba lying in a royal blue jacket with his hair like a halo around his glowing face. He looked very beautiful as we all sat in silence enfolded in his love. Delia DeLeon.
Their stay in Portofino was an intimate time with Baba, a time for work and for play. Music, skits, meals together, and outings to bathe in the Mediterranean.
We had ample opportunities for watching Baba's moods and habits. They are infinitely varied. The most superb actor in the world with quick changing moods. He can appear angry and displeased and mischievous like a boy. It is marvelous to watch him handle different characters in entirely different ways. In the morning, we would swim, boat, or play games on the beach. An hour later, his face would be full of sadness and suffering. The cause might be unknown to us. Of course, for the most part, his eyes, face, and signs expressed love. Herbert Davy.
What is the theory of the manifestation of an avatar? After cycles of years, when spirituality reaches its lowest ebb and materialism its highest point, when there is chaos and confusion everywhere, the impersonal aspect of divinity assumes personality, and the world sees the physical manifestation of an avatar. While it was a happy stay in Portofino, there were the inevitable personality clashes and disagreements. But it was all part of his ongoing training with these early disciples.
Baba said we were always quarrelling and did not realize what it meant to be with a master. He announced he was cutting short his stay and leaving. Of course, we were all devastated and all wept. I can still see Elizabeth weeping copiously into a large serviette. Eventually, of course, he forgave us and stayed. Delia DeLeon.
On July 10th, the 8th anniversary of Meher Baba's silence, an unusual incident took place. Baba went for a walk along the cliff path with several of the women and Herbert. They all reached the sea, but instead of returning the way they came, Baba began to climb up a different way that turned out to be very steep. He kept going, but the rest of them, trying to follow Baba, got stuck halfway up the cliff.
At 6:45, the group had not come back. So those who had returned became anxious and sent Albertino, the little Italian boy, to see if something was the matter. Albertino found Baba on top of the cliff, and he made signs to him to run back and get a rope. Everybody dropped what they were doing and rushed along the path with rope and straps. As they approached the ravine, Baba came up the cliff with radiant face and pointed to the three below, who had been absolutely unable to proceed and were then just out of danger. All of us walked back to the house together, and Baba asked us all to be seated on the ground around him. Then he explained that this danger was good for his work. He had done a universal work of importance during that time. We asked Baba why he led the group into danger when he knew of it beforehand, and he said it was a test of their faith in him. And during times of danger, Baba could do his universal work better. Elizabeth Patterson.
To celebrate this event, Baba called us all into the library, retold the story, and gave each a sip of Italian wine with his own hands, an extraordinary event, as at this period Baba forbade his close disciples to take any intoxicants. Baba's explanation was, "When I give anything, you should not hesitate to take. I give or not give for special reasons." Kitty Davy.
After nearly a month of living and working with Baba, the Portofino adventure was over, and all fortunate participants once again returned to their separate lives. Many would see him again when he traveled to Europe later that year in October. It was during these frequent contacts in the 1930s that Meher Baba gradually drew his early Western disciples to him. Through the force of his personality and through his divine love, these early followers would come to learn the spiritual lessons of self-sacrifice, surrenderance, and obedience. Elizabeth wrote a letter to Baba that expressed the feelings of the entire group.
Dearest Baba, you have left us outwardly, but inwardly you are never more near to us. And we talk of you constantly and dream of you each night. You are the realization of all our dreams and the joy of our waking moments. Portofino will ever remain with our hearts as paradise. How good you were and how loving. My heart is full of love for you, Baba dear. Dilruba.
The next day, Baba dictated cables to Chanji to be sent to the group from Naples.
Very sad. Missing you all terribly. The pangs of separation hurt less by thoughts of happy reunion soon. All my love, beloved ones. Baba.